So I did a 6-month residency at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel out in Singapore last year. I was there from February through August, and that came about because I was performing a gig here in town, and I met the general manager of the hotel. He just happened to be there, watched me play, and he came up to me and was like, "Hey, I really like what you're doing. You should come play at my hotel." And I was like, "Okay, where's your hotel?" And he's like, "It's in Singapore." And I was like, "Okay, you might be full of shit." So let's
kind of scams.
Let's see where this goes, because it's like that's one thing in being in this business is, you meet a lot of fucking people that are just like,
"Oh yeah,
hey man, I know a guy who knows a guy who works for Capitol Records," and just shit like that. So like I'm used to being let down, right? Yeah. And so I was like, "All right, let me get your card and we'll talk about it," And he gave me his card, and it was like Ritz-Carlton Millennia, Singapore, and his name is Peter Mangy. And he was for real. Sent me a contract like 2 weeks later, and I thought it was just going to be like a little maybe like a month-long trip or something like that, but it was like a whole thing, and I just gotten out of a really bad relationship, so I was like and I just gotten done with The Voice, not making a team, like I was really sad, and so the timing of it was all just pretty much perfect.
Nice.
So I was like, I guess I'm going to Asia, so I ended up there and played 6 nights a week at the hotel, and that was the only obligation.
How long were the sets?
Just 3 hours, like same as here, and it was originals and cover songs, and I got to live at the hotel in one of the rooms.
Nice.
I got free, hotel food, like amazing Ritz-Carlton buffet
every
food
day?
Every day, three times a week, and then I got, my laundry was done for me.
You went around the city though, right?
All the time. Oh yeah. Like the city itself is, so Singapore, it's like a, if any of you guys have seen Crazy Rich Asians, that's where it takes place, right?
I knew it.
Mm-hmm. And so Singapore it's this tiny island at the very southern tip of Malaysia. So it's like north of Indonesia and south of Thailand, right?
Right.
And so it used to be part of Malaysia as a whole, but then after World War II, Malaysia used to be a British colonized country, and then after the war ended, Malaysia was like, "You guys are a bunch of pussies. You couldn't even fight the Japanese off for us, so we want to be doing our own thing." And so they did. But then Singapore was this sort of like hub of different cultures and different religions, and it was also a big port city, so there was a lot of activity that went on that didn't go on in the rest of Malaysia. I'm paraphrasing obviously, but
it's like the Vegas of the East.
Kinda, yeah, and in a lot of ways. And so there were a lot of new sort of laws and rules that that Malaysia was trying to apply to Singapore because it's predominantly a Muslim country. And so a lot of the people in Singapore weren't Muslim and didn't agree with that. So there was a big disagreement with that. And so there was a bunch of riots. And then basically, long story short, Malaysia was like, "We're going to just cast you out of the country. You can do your own thing. Fine." So they're like, "All right, fine." And Malaysia was thinking, "Oh, they're going to come crawling back to us and be like, 'Oh, we're sorry,' but they never did. And they became an independent country, and then they created one of the biggest economies in all of Asia, and it's extremely westernized. It's clean. It's beautiful. It's really safe. There's barely any crime there.
Really?
It's all the like half the buildings are just covered in, vines and orchids.
Is Singapore
and
the place where you can't chew gum? Or is that Macau?
What?
No, that's part of it. It's so
you can't chew gum.
It's those
on
rules.
The roads because they don't want it on the streets and shit.
Yeah, it's more of a scare tactic than anything. Like you can have gum. They don't sell gum in the country, but you can like have gum. You can bring gum if you like gum.
Smuggle gum in.
And, yeah, right. Yeah, but it's more of like a thing to keep things clean, And
it's smart.
And
that's dope, man.
And you have to really like try really hard to get fined for it because like you have to like spit out gum in front of a cop.
You gotta be chewing all ignorant.
Yeah, just spit it on his shoes. He's like, "Really, man?" Like, yeah, because it's a lot like Europe or America in a lot of ways. Like everybody speaks English too. Like English is the first language because of the whole British colonization thing.
That's kind of cool. You weren't super distant. It wasn't
but there was but the population is still predominantly Asian. So it's like it's Malaysians, Chinese, then a lot of Indians, and then just like Europeans and white people kind of sprinkled in,
Nice.
And
always.
Yeah.
There's always a white person sprinkled in there.
Yeah, we always sprinkle.
But it's full of, but it's really cool because it's like this sort of cultural center of different, religions, and it's still the same, like as before. And so there are these different, places around town that have these sort of cultural, like hubs. Like there's a Little India, there's a Chinatown, there's, there's a place called Bugis Market, which has a lot of like sort of Malaysian type things.
Is it expensive to live out there?
Yes, very expensive.
Very expensive.
Yeah, but there's a lot of places you can get really cheap food at, and there's they have hotels, Airbnbs, and so it's really great to visit and just kind of see, because it's almost like Asian Wakanda. That's what I think about it.
Nice.
Yeah, it's really cool, man. And I got to spend 6 months out there, made a bunch of amazing friends, and just wrote and practiced and performed, and it made me such a better performer as a whole. And I'm going back again. I'm going back only for 3 months though. It's just basically October through December of this year.
That's tight.
Nice.
So,
I was gonna ask. I think you mentioned you were going back.
Yeah, I was thinking of going back again, but the one downside of it was just being away from home for 6 months. It's a long time. It was the longest I've ever been away from
3
home.
months is still pretty damn long too.
Yeah, but it was enough to where you're being pampered basically, so it was just like a really nice kind of relaxing type of deal, and it was very kind of freeing for me.
Did you go to any other like shows or little like areas like where there's a little culture?
Yeah, there was they have a So Far Sound Singapore as well, actually.
Oh,
they're everywhere.
Yeah,
Were you ever doing shows out there with them?
I did a couple gigs. Like I played at the Facebook headquarters they have there, because Facebook has like one of their big like Asian things, and I met a lady who worked there, and she booked me to play for one of their offices openings. That was pretty cool.
Nice.
And I just played a couple of the local. They have like these bars that have jams, and you can go up there and just play a song and stuff. So I got to play with some random guys that were there, and so they have like a pretty decent cover song scene out there too. And then they have original songs too, and then like the guys that play original music are like think the cover guys are lame, just like here, So it's all the same type of shit,
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about just traveling and performing overseas? Because I heard they have a bigger appreciation for music.
They honestly, they do, man. Like the people that were there were just so attentive and really nice, and yeah, I thought about it. I'm gonna definitely try to make that sort of a part of my career. Like I'm trying to do a little show in Manila, because I met some friends who are in a band called Over October out there.
Nice. Manila sounds like a rich country.
That's the Philippines.
Sounds like a cookie.
That's where the Manila fashion shows at. Oh, I'm thinking of Milan. I'm so ignorant, bro.
Yeah, it's all good, man. But yeah, and I'd recommend anybody to check it out, especially if like you guys are, if you've done Europe and you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to do Asia, because Asia, there's a lot of places. Like I went to Thailand, and there's it's pretty sketchy. It's intense, man. But there's a lot of really cool things about it. But it's not the same as the U.S. Like it's a second, for third world country in a lot of places. And there's a lot of poverty and just crazy things too. And so
I feel like anywhere outside of the U.S. is the most impoverished nation, because if you think about how much, if you make, what was that statistic we're looking at, Chuck, where like if you make $30,000 a year in the U.S., you're like in the top 10% or top 1%. 1% of the richest people in the world.
Yeah, it's true.
Nuts.
It's like if you take the whole pool of everything in the world, then it's totally the case. And and Singapore is one of those places where, if I could totally live there if it was less expensive, and and if I didn't live in the U.S., like that would be a place that I would consider wanting to live. It would be pretty cool.
Right.